Hey guys, Brennan Miller here from the Maple team. So, on July 19th, I hosted a live webinar with a number of different people that came out because they were interested to apply for the Caregiver program. Now, we put this webinar together because we had a number of different people that were contacting us and they were really confused and they wanted to get a head start on what was going to happen with the Caregiver program. So, in this must-attend webinar that people came out to, we've actually decided to publish it here as part of our Learn and Confirm webinar series. And in this video, what you're going to see is we go give you an overview of the announcement, some of the different things that we see, some of the predictions that we see. We give you some professional insights, and most importantly, we give you some ways that you can prepare yourself, because I can guarantee you this, with all of the time that I've spent working on the Caregiver program, this is going to be one of the craziest intakes that we've probably seen. Now, we don't know what it's going to look like right now, but there's a few things in there that I think will be beneficial to you in order for you to be able to get prepared. If you want to take a look at this video, I think it's going to be very informative for you. And if you do want to get prepared, then reach out to myself and the Maple team. We can certainly help you do that. We can look over your documents and get you ready, because I'm going to tell you, the people that are going to be accepted into this program for processing are going to be people that are prepared. So, enjoy watching. I hope it's actually very beneficial to you. And by all means, please put any comments or questions that you have in the comments below, and stay tuned because we're going to have lots of updates. So again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because they're going to be published right here, and we will be holding subsequent webinars in the future for you to be able to get the information that you need. All right. So we'll see you soon, guys. Enjoy, and I hope it really helps you out. Take care. If you guys want to fill in the chat, I would love to know where everybody, while we're waiting for some people, I'd love to know where everybody is at. That would be great. So just type into chat if you'd like. That would be great. We'll admit somebody there. Move this over here. All right. So look at that. We've got BC. Hamilton. All right. Calgary. Woohoo. Come on, guys. Don't be shy. Well, people are coming in. Philippines. Brenda is in Hong Kong. Fantastic. Oh, Trinidad. Dubai. All right. We're all over the place. I love it. Philippines. We got Whitby. That's awesome. Hong Kong. Okay, cool. This is great. So I think we should get started here. I'm sure people will just come in as they do. But let me share my screen here, and we'll dive in. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about preparing for the caregiver program. Over the last, last couple of months, or a month and a bit, we've received a lot of inquiries. So what we decided to do is we decided to hold this webinar. And I wanted to walk you through some of these things, because there seems to be a lot of confusion with respect to what's going on, and what the program's going to like, or what the program's going to look like. So what I want to do today is I'm going to obviously go through the different pilots, the programs. I'm going to talk about the current state of the program. I'm also going to talk about the announcement. And what I'm going to do is actually, I want to just go through the announcement very quickly, and I want to show you some of the things that are in there and what I see as I read that, because a lot of people read it and all they see is permanent residence, right? And there's a number of different things that I see that are in there that you need to be aware of. And I'm also going to go through how to prepare for this and what you can do now, and some of the predictions about how this is going to go. All right. So before I go, I don't want to shamelessly self-promote or anything, but I do want you to know a few things about me. We've been doing this for a long time, and I've worked predominantly in the caregiver program for a long time. So I'm not just talking about like the announcement as it is like today. I'm talking about it with over 10 years of working in different iterations of the program. So there's a lot of important things that you need to know, and I believe that what you can learn from the history of the program and where it's going to go, um, you know, I just think it's important. So I don't think it's. I think there's. Well, I think there's some prizes. I think. Oh, there's Candace. All right. So let's keep moving. A couple of quick reminders. I've got everybody on mute. So you're force muted just because sometimes when you're holding webinars, it's tricky. People are signing in with different phones. I saw somebody's keyboard there and stuff. So, so we're all just trying to kind of get through the information, and I want to make sure that it's there. I will take certain people off mute if you have some questions, but again, if you do have questions as we go, I'm going to do a few questions at the end. If you want to put them in the chat, I would really super appreciate that. And then what we'll do is we'll go through all of that and do our best to get to those. Okay. Um, so let me hit there. So, and I went backwards on my screen. Excuse me. And the other thing is too, is when you ask questions, I want to keep the questions general in nature. I don't want to be case specific. And the reason is that a lot of times, well, I just want to keep it very case or non-case specific. I want to keep it general. Okay. So if you can ask general questions, that would be really cool. So start throwing those in the chat. That would be great. And then we'll keep moving. All right. So we still have people coming in. Fantastic. Okay. So here's what the caregiver program has looked like since 2002. Now, there was a live-in caregiver program, and it was exactly that. It was just a live-in caregiver program where you could only live in, you had to work for a couple years, and the backlogs were massive, right? There was people, sadly, that were taking like 8, 10 years to get through the program. I don't know what the record was, but it was pretty bad. So we've come far since then. Then from there we went to the in-home caregiver program, and the difference is that there was a live-out option. Okay. And then from there we went to the in-term caregiver program, where we went pretty much the same from the in-home to just a 1 year component. All right. And I'm not going to read all those for you just because I do want to keep things flowing for you. Now in 2019, that's where everything changed. Okay. And that was where the home support worker program came in. The home support worker program and the home child care provider pilot, this was a 4 year pilot program that ended, you know, just recently. And because the other 2023 to 2024, it was 1 year. So the purple and the red one there are pretty much the same thing. But here's the thing that's different about it is that it was 1 year of experience. It was virtually the same. But this was a real change in the program because it actually got away from an LMIA based program and it went into a different pilot, which was basically um, for simplicity's sake, they were pre-approving people for PR. Okay. Whereas the other one wasn't. So now we've gone to a different, basically the same program, but it's a direct to PR. Okay. So instead of doing 2 years of work experience and then 1 year of work experience, now it's like direct to PR. Okay. And that's why I think that I'll talk about this a little later, but I think this is why there's been a lot of fever around it. Um, and we'll see how it works out, but we'll see. All right. So I'm sorry, I want to get to the stuff later on, but I don't want to jump ahead on my slides. All right. So that is basically the history of the program. Now, the reason I show you the history is because you have to understand a few things. When you start reading online, because I know everyone's searching online, right? Everyone's, doing this and that. You're going to see all of these programs online. Okay. The only programs, if you're not already in Canada and you weren't under a caregiver program before, the only programs that you're going to need to look at are the home support worker and the home child care provider. Those are the ones that are the best iteration of what you're probably going to see with this new version. Okay. Uh, with some changes, if you will. All right. Cool. Let's keep going here. So currently there's two pathways. As I said, there's the home child care provider and the home support worker. Now they're both closed. Currently, if you're not in Canada and you're not under one of those programs, there is nothing open. Okay. It filled actually, and just before the completion of the program in June, it filled in late May. The childcare one filled like before that in January. So the childcare is always the most competitive. But the home support worker one, that filled up in May. And then the program finished in June. Okay. So currently there's nothing open. Then they made the announcement on June 3rd prior to the closing of the program, but the program was technically already closed. Okay. Because it would already hit their caps. All right. So the immigration minister came out on June 3rd and made this announcement, right? Caregivers play a critical role in supporting Canadian families. I couldn't agree more, actually. Again, as I noted to you when I started out, this has always been an area where there's certainly a need, and my opinion is that they're not doing enough in terms of the availability for people that are working in the profession, and it's only going to get worse with respect to older people. So again, the quotas, they haven't been announced yet, but I don't suspect that they're going to be absolutely massive, and that's part of why you guys need to prepare. Okay. So again, a nice little government statement about how they play a critical role, et cetera, et cetera. However, let's just treat this for what it is. It's a nice political statement. Okay. So let's talk about the announcement as it is, right? On June 3rd, IRCC announced that there would be two new pilot programs, right? And they said where home care workers would be granted PR upon arrival. This is when everyone started going, the internet lit up that day, I tell you, because we got a lot of emails because, obviously it's direct to PR. As the home child care provider pilot and home support worker come to a close, like as we've said, today we announced this. This is actually copied right out of the announcement. This will allow caregivers to continue to work in Canada, to come to Canada, right, as we work towards making the caregiver pilot programs permanent. Okay, so these were pilot programs. Now they're going to become permanent programs. I'm not going to get into what all that means, but a pilot is exactly the way it sounds. A pilot program is a test program. Okay. Now they make them permanent. So they do this in immigration, like we had the rural northern immigration pilot. Now it's the rural northern immigration program. We had the Atlantic immigration program. Now it's the or pilot. Now it's the Atlantic immigration program. And it's actually I guess convenient for them because it's pilot and program. So the acronyms generally tend to stay the same. All right. Now, here's where we're going to look at the wording. Additionally, caregivers will be eligible to work for organizations that provide temporary or part-time care for individuals who are semi-independent or recovering from injury or illness. Okay. So this has been something different. So remember before it was only live in, and then it was live out, and then it was the 1 year. And now we've got the home support worker and the home child care. But now we're focused on people who are providing home care through organizations. Now, I think that's a little bit of gasoline on the fire for people that are going to be applying for this. And I also think that people who generally tend to work in that, it's going to be interesting to see what the NOC codes are for this too, right? Because There is a difference between people who work in institutional, like say a PSW, and people who work in home care. So I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do with that, because this is where the announcement kind of falls apart. And this is where it's really important when I said I look at this with a different lens. I think it's something that we all need to pay attention to. This pathway enables caregivers to more easily secure appropriate employment with reputable employers, right? Okay. And offers clear, straightforward access to permanent resident status. Yes, because as soon as they arrive, they get PR. Okay. So, what's important and what I noticed in the announcement is they spoke a lot about home care and elder care. Now, if you look at the announcement, they do talk about childcare in there. It is mentioned, so I believe that there's something there. But I also see that this is very slanted towards home care, right? In that paragraph there, and these are directly from the announcement, I don't see a lot with respect to childcare. Now, it is mentioned because they do say that both of the programs will be there, but I don't know what they're going to do with respect to the quota on that. Okay. So the other thing is too, and I'll talk about that a little bit later with respect to strategy, where you would, if you're looking to secure a spot in here, where you'll most likely find a spot easier than other places. Okay. Eligibility criteria. Now, I didn't copy this out. These were bullet points in the announcement. Have an offer of full-time job related to home care work. Okay, so home care will either be home care adults or home care children. But again, as I said, there was also the agency aspect as well. Okay. Completed education that is equal to secondary or high school. And don't worry, I'm going to delve into these a little bit more. Uh, Score minimum CLB4 on a language test and have related work experience or training that is recent. Okay. So let's break these down, because this is where it's important. So number one, full-time job offer related to home care work. Okay. So in the previous, or the, I guess the pilot program, what it was is basically a form. You would have a job offer. They would ask about the job. There would be a contract, and it was all pretty straightforward. I assume that that's going to be very similar. Okay. There's got to be a contract. There's got to be a job offer. There's got to be a few different items that we generally will put into an application. But yeah, from there, that's generally how that'll work. All right. Completed education that is equal to secondary or high school. Now, this is Canadian high school. So I'm going to use the Philippines, for example, because depending on when you went to school, currently in the Philippines, it's 12 years. It's 12 years for experience. But if you went to school when it was 10 years, the 10 plus 2, you're going to need to have the post-secondary. Now that gets tricky, because those need to be a post-secondary which are completed. Okay, because you're going to need to do an educational check. You're going to need to get that done with like a WES or a BCIT through ICAS or ISIS, ICES, one of those. Okay. So this is crucial. And I would start doing that now, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but that's something that you certainly want to do. The next thing that you want to do is, just give me one sec here. The next thing that you want to do is you want to get an English test, and I would start looking at this too. I believe it's either going to be a CELPIP or an IELTS, and the CLB4 is super low. Okay, so that's a huge gift. Okay, like you should be able to get a CLB4 with a little bit of study. Obviously, if you have some English skills, then you should be fine. Work-related experience. Okay, so or training. Now, a lot of times what I'm seeing in there as well is they're putting more emphasis on work experience. I know everybody's got caregiver courses and different things like that. If you did a caregiver course 10 years ago, sure, you qualify, but I am not sure that that actually might cut the mustard with this. And I don't know, because again, they haven't released that. You're going to want to make sure that you actually have, um, something that's recent, and I would say preferably within the last 3 years is generally under the old program. Under the old programs, if you look at what the officers were using to make their decisions, it was generally something in a 3-year gap, is what they would consider as recent. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This was out of the announcement as well. Basically, there's 15,000 spots is what I gleaned from that from 2024 to 2026. There's an immigration levels plan where they actually will say, we're bringing in 500,000 people, or we're bringing in this, and they will put down, where those categories will go. So they're taking 15,000, they're spreading it over a few years. So again, you can extrapolate that, there's probably about 5,000 spots a year, and they're probably going to cut them right down the middle. So it's going to be about 2,500 spots. Now, it might be a little different because who knows? They actually might say child care, home care senior, and home care through agencies. We might see it split up through ways. We actually don't know. So again, we're going to have to wait and see. Since the launch of the program, nearly 5,700 caregivers and family members have achieved permanent residence as of April 2024. Now you got to remember, there's still people that are in the pipeline because there was the 2-year work, and then there was the 1 year, and then, yeah. So we'll have to see. So there's still people there. Now, in June 2014, the Living Caregiver Program inventory was 60,000 people. Remember that huge backlog that I was telling you about? Because there used to be no quotas, right? And today, less than 1% remains. Now, I can also tell you that if I'm not mistaken, and I don't want to misquote myself, but they don't have a lot of officers working on this. I go to a lot of government conferences, and if I'm not mistaken, it was about 20 officers that were working on this in Edmonton. Okay. So not a lot of people with respect to the inventory. Now, we're not going to know how many people are there. I don't know how many people they're going to have processing. But again, we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay. This is important, guys, because this is how you can be prepared. Okay. So, study for your English test. Again, CLB4. These language tests are valid for 2 years. Now, I don't know if they're going to change that. They could change it to 1 year, they could change it to 5 years, but normally across all immigration programs, they're generally valid for 2 years. So, if you did that right now, you would have a valid English test for year 1 of the program and possibly year 2. All right? I would get that sorted out as soon as possible. Um, I don't suspect that this will be a problem, but generally when the TR to PR program opened up, we saw, especially in Toronto area, there was a big, massive rushing for people to get English tests. So you want to make sure that you can actually get in and get out of those as quickly as possible. Okay. So get that done. And I also suggest that you study for it. Okay. Make sure that you get that. I know a lot of people, especially some of my people that have studied in English, they're like, I don't need to study. I'm like, yeah, you do, because you're studying for the test. All right. Get your documents in order. Get your educational checks done. If you're not meeting a high school credential, that's a problem, because that definitely is going to be a game stopper for you. Okay. So make sure you have that. Get your diploma transcript. Sometimes this can take a little bit of time depending on where you are. But again, you'll want to make sure that you get that stuff in order. Those things can take time. So, and they're valid for 5 years. So you're not going to have to do that. If you're resigned to the fact that you're coming here under this program, then certainly get that stuff taken care of. All right, get your work and training documents. So I know somebody said that or who was that? Anna Lou. Anna Lou had put in the screen there that she was in Hong Kong. So if she's in Hong Kong, she's going to have a visa. She's going to have a contract. She's going to have a number of different documentation, a lot of different documentation that shows and proves her work experience. You're going to want to make sure that you have related work experience, and you're going to want to do your best to make sure that you have that documentation wise, which can be a little bit problematic sometimes, especially if you're working in Hong Kong, for instance. You've got a long list of job duties a lot of times, right? So you want to basically make sure you have as official type documentation as possible, because one of the things that the visa officer will look at when they're assessing you under this program is, do you actually have the skills to be able to do the job? Okay. All right. So get your documents ready. Passports, if you have a passport that's expiring next year, you might want to renew that because your passport must be valid. You're going to want to make sure that you have marriage certificates, because again, this is a PR program, so you're going to want all of the documentation. You're going to want birth certificates. You're going to want marriage certificates if you're married, for instance. You're going to want children's information. Everybody needs passports. You might as well start getting that stuff in order now, because sometimes that can be very time consuming. And when this program opens, it is going to favor the people who are prepared for sure. You won't have time to be like, "Oh, it's open. Let me get all my stuff done," because it'll be open and closed. It's going to be open and closed 100%. Um okay, you'll need to receive a job offer. So, if you don't have an employer, not much you can do at this point, right? So you might want to start looking around, you know, and if you're an employer, you might want to start looking around, all right, and making sure that you have somebody who's actually going to get through the program. Start looking. I also want you to be careful, guys, because again, we get a lot of people that will come to us. They're looking for jobs, for instance. And unfortunately, if you're looking for a job, sometimes, especially for a job overseas, you can be very vulnerable. We have people that will contact our office, and there's a lot of people out there that are, that are scamming them. So you need to make sure that you are getting a job from a legit source. If you're being asked to pay for a job, that's a good sign that it's not actually a legitimate job. So, because quite frankly, it is illegal. But yeah, I know that sometimes, well, a lot of times that happens, and there's a lot of really bad stories about that, and we get people calling, quite regularly actually, and sending us these fake documents that they've paid money for. So, sorry for that. I don't mean to be a downer, but again, I just want you to be safe. And when you're out there looking for a job, it can be challenging. Okay. All right, let's keep moving. Plan for your family. So, spouse, children, if you have dependents, make sure you have all that stuff. Are they going to come with you to Canada? Or are they going to come later? Et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of different things. Now, we don't actually know what that's going to look like, but normally when you get a PR, because it is a PR program, everybody can land, but the principal applicant needs to land first, and then other people can land afterwards. And whether everybody comes at the same time, you can do that, but I would say be careful and make sure you have support there, because again, you're going to have to, depending on the seasons and all the other stuff, you want to make sure that you do everything properly there, especially if you have young kids. So yeah. Okay. Now, employers, I know that when we sent this out to employers, and we sent this out to employers, and we sent this out to people that were caregivers and looking for jobs. If you're an employer, you want to make sure that you have the right person with the right requirements. Okay. We do this quite often for people. We will screen people to make sure that actually they have the requirements for the job. And we do it on both sides. We do it for caregivers, and we also do it for employers, because again, if it's not going to work, then it's just a big waste of time. So you want to make sure that you have the right requirements, okay, on both sides. All right. So, and again, normally what we do with this is, if an employer comes, we will screen the person, and then we will speak with the employer about that as well. And we'll give some tips on how to do that. We do this quite regularly. Sometimes it's just a tweaking, but again, sooner rather than later, because again, some of these things might be fixable prior to the expiry. And a lot of times everybody wants somebody like right now, but it can be challenging. Okay, cool. I also see some people are putting in. I'm going to be ending up here soon, and I'm going to take on some questions. So I'm just going to give you a quick reminder. If you want to put some questions in chat, I will certainly answer some questions for you. Okay, so please type those in. I would love to take questions. Love questions. Yay, questions. Okay, now my predictions, right? Isn't that a great picture? Crystal ball. Ooh. Okay, here we go. There's going to be a low quota and there's going to be absolute crazy demand. I know, right? What a big prediction this is. But as soon as it says PR, everyone has come out of the woodworks. Over the last couple of weeks, heck, I'll give you an example. I had this Indian student from he was at I shouldn't say too much, but he was a student. He was from India, and he called me up and he says, I want to apply for this program. And I was like, oh, what are you doing? Well, I'm working in an office. I'm working in administration. I'm like, okay. I said, have you worked as a caregiver? Well, not here, but I took care of some kids when I was back in India. And I was like, okay. I said, so who did you take care of? And we started talking, and it was, you know, he's got a degree in administration. He's working in administration, and his experience when I was speaking to him was just not cutting the mustard, so to speak. So, again, and then he was like, I said, yeah, I don't really think that this is going to work out for you. His next question was, so what are the requirements? So he's going to go ahead and he's going to submit anyways. Okay. But here's the thing. There's going to be a lot of people because there's a lot of people that are going to see this as an end run to PR, right? Before it wasn't like that because people had to come in and they had to work and they had to live in, and it was very niche. But now it's going to be crazy because everyone and their brother and sister and cousin and everybody else is trying to like take a run at the PR. Okay. And because it's a PR program, that's what's going to happen. So I suspect, and this is where things are going to get a little fuzzy, because one of the questions is if there's a quota and somebody's accepted into processing, if their application fails, do they take one of the spots away? And the short answer is yes, most likely. Okay, they're not going to return that spot. So I know with other programs like Express Entry, for instance, whenever they did a draw, sometimes there was a 30% rate of people that didn't even file it. They just wasted those invitations, which is not very nice, actually. And then they would go back in the draw again, and then they would get selected again, and they would take away another spot from somebody. They would take it up. So you might have this in actual fact. If you look at that immigration levels plan that we talked about, you'll see that there's a range and this accounts for it. So I'm suspecting that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be applying. There's going to be a lot of people that actually don't meet the requirements, and they know that, but they're going to try and they're going to do whatever they can do to get those. And then what's going to happen is that it's going to take away spots for other people, right? And so this can be a problem. So this is one thing that I think that you need to be aware of. Okay, low quota, crazy demand. Processing times. Have no idea what these processing times are going to be, but if it's like anything that has been with the other programs, it is definitely not going to be quick. I would suspect that it's probably going to be probably a year to year and a half to 2 years. I don't know. I'm just throwing out numbers, but it ain't going to be quick. Okay. And the reason is because it's a PR program, right? A PR program means is that they have to do all of the screenings for PR, for permanent residence. Okay. It's different from doing a temporary residence. When you're admitting somebody as a permanent resident, you are really going to look at their history. You're going to look at their admissibility. You're going to look at the medical. You're going to look at all the stuff for their family. You're going to do everything. It takes a lot longer than if somebody was coming over on a work permit. So I'm going to guess that it's most likely going to take a long time. It's probably like I would like to say a year. I think that's what they're going to say, but I can tell you right now, I don't believe that at all. Okay. It's probably going to be about 2 years. And I can tell you that I have some files. We're going on like year three. Now, granted, it was COVID, right? So I do get it. But yeah, I have files that have gone through. Actually, I've had some files go through reasonably quick on some of them, but most of them are taking a little bit of time. Okay. All right. Now, how we can help you is if you want, we can provide a review of documentation. Again, I know a little shameless self promotion, but I don't mean to. I won't take long. Why is that there? Anyways. Oh, man, it's planned. If you are an employer or you're somebody else, we can take a caregiver. We can take a look at your documents, make sure you're there, and give you some stuff that you're going to have to do to make sure that you're there. Also, the other thing that you can do is just connect with us. Now, I suspect, I don't know when they're going to actually come out, and where this is actually going to be really important is when we actually have the guidelines. Okay, so I will be studying those, be you know, quite extensively, and there's going to be gaps in them because there always is, but we can pretty much cobble together what it's going to look like with respect to the other program that just closed. But there's going to be some tweaks to it. And I certainly believe that there's going to be some surprises. Okay. Lastly, we're not a recruitment company, so if you are looking for a job, we can't help you with that. We don't do placements. But if you do have an employer or you are an employer and you want to find somebody, then we absolutely love doing the paperwork. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to do a few things. I want you. Oh, last thing I want to do, I'm just going to say that put up the thank you slide. So I want you to connect with us, guys. And the reason is I'm going to put this presentation up on our YouTube channel, which is the Maple Team. And what I'd like you to do is just connect with us there because we will be watching this quite closely, and we will be putting up announcements on like Facebook and different channels that we have there. So please keep an eye on those and watch for those because when the guidelines come out, I absolutely will be doing a deep dive into that, and that's where you're going to get a lot of details. Okay. I just wanted to do this today because again, we have lots and lots of questions that always come in. Okay. Now, speaking of questions, I'm going to dive into that if I can. Just give me one sec there. Let's see here. Um, Just give me one sec. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but that's May. Hi, I'm here in Canada on a visit visa, and I'm interested in this program. Any advice of what to do first? Do I need to go back to my home country? Okay, that's a good question. So no, you don't have to go back to your home country, but you're also going to want to make sure because again, this is permanent residence. If it was a temporary residence program, one of the things that they look for in a temporary residence program is if you're actually are going to come and you're going to go home afterwards, right? This being a permanent resident program, you know, that you don't have to worry about that. I would suggest, however, that you want to be careful with whatever you're doing. If you're on a visit visa, that's fine. But if you're staying for a long time, for instance, make sure that you don't have any refusals or things along those lines. So that generally tends to be some of the things that you want to be careful of. Okay. But yeah, hope you're having a good time here. Okay. Can I switch from the home support worker to the new program? Probably not a good idea. And again, I don't know anything about your situation, but that's probably not a good idea because you already have a pathway to that. And again, I don't know anything about your stuff there, Kadeen, I guess. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But if you want to reach out to us, I can certainly have a look, but I do not think that's a good idea for you. I think you should just, you know, follow suit with what you're doing. Okay. Shivani. Oh, that's small, Shivani. Sorry. Okay, so I'll read it out. Do we know when the program opens to submit an application? January 1st, 2025. So most likely that's what it's going to be. I got to tell you, this opening at the crack of dawn on the first day of the year is just it's not fun. We don't do I don't retain. Before, when we were doing this, we used to work with, basically when it was the LMIA program, we could sign anybody up at any time and work with them. But now, this one, we only work with one, possibly two people, and that's it, where we represent the files. Now, we do a lot of helping people get together, get their stuff ready, but we don't represent it. And the reason is exactly what Shivani's asking, is that when it opens on January, and for the childcare, I'm talking about childcare, guys, because the childcare fills, like, one year it filled in like an hour and a half, right? It was done, you know. So, and I don't know what it's going to look like now. Hopefully they've come to their senses on that, but we'll see. But currently it's most likely going to be that date, I would think. Any idea how long the process will take was the other thing here, from the time of application submission to actually arriving in Canada. I have no idea, but it's probably going to be at least a year and a half, 2 years. There's a number of different factors that are going to be taken into account on that. So, first thing is that normally what happens with the intake is it goes into Edmonton, because before they were processed in the local offices overseas, right? When it was a work permit. And then when you filed for permanent residence, it went into an intake center. But when there is how do I put it? When there's family involved, it's going to be shifted back to the visa post, generally, because they're going to have to do a lot of checks, because it's a permanent residence program. So they will do, like, again, I'll just use the Philippines for example. That's a regional processing center. So that's a busy, busy office, not only for the Philippines, which is like, jockeys between the second and third source country for people to come to Canada, but they're also handling, Japan, Korea, and different areas as well, or things are being outsourced. The other thing on top of that too is that files can be shifted and processed in different places. But normally they'll shift it over there if there's family there, because again, they'll want local knowledge. Okay. So it's really going to depend. All right, let's keep moving. Thanks for that, Shivani, and good to see you. Janine, does the job offer must come from an established company or family? Good question. Uh, don't know, because the home care is going to be a different, it's going to be a different leg. All right. We don't know what that's going to look like. So what's going to happen is I don't know, actually. This is different because now they've opened it up to presumably home care agencies. So normally it's a pretty simple process. Okay, if it was an LMIA, there's a lot to it. But it's going to be interesting. So I'm going to guess, I don't know what they're going to do with that, because you know, normally what they'll do is, what I'm guessing is, they're going to have to show business legitimacy. They might put something in that, because anybody can go and open a home care agency, right? And hire a bunch of people, right? So they're going to watch out for that, because everyone always tries these silly little things. So they'll go and they'll be like, oh, because I can open a company in, like, what, an hour. So I could go open that, call it home care, and then I could just go and hire a bunch of people. And, maybe I'm less scrupulous and I can charge them for stuff too. Cause, people will be doing that silly stuff, because they always do. Sorry if I gave somebody some ideas, but you're going to want to, yeah, they're probably going to have to be established. They're probably going to have to be around for a little bit. Hopefully the government's thinking about this. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that they're on it, because This has been quite problematic. So normally, I guess for the company, yeah, they're probably going to have to be established, and a family, that's pretty easy to prove. There's tax records and different things, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. May, I worked in a hospital for 9 years. Is that experience enough? It depends what you were doing. If you were a nurse, then no, probably not. Maybe it is. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see, right? Because they're gonna tell us. As I said in the uh, as I said in the preamble to this, there's going to certainly be some surprises. I don't know if they're gonna split things up because currently, if you look at somebody who's a personal support worker that works in a facility, and you look at a personal support worker that's doing home care, they're two different NOC codes. One of them's in express entry, right, under the healthcare stream, and one of them is not. And actually, if you look at the NOC codes, they exclude each other. So where does that home care? It said home care, right? Um, so we'll have to see. But presumably, yes, you might. It depends. We would have to look at that. And again, if you do want to reach out, we can certainly do a preliminary look at it for you to see if that'll work. Okay. All right, let's move on. Okay. Janimi, okay. So thank you for the discussion. Oh, thank you for coming. I'd like to confirm if my sister who's in Canada can be my employer. Oh, good question. Yes. She is widowed and employed, so she wants me to take care of her kids. She's away most of the time. Okay. I don't want to get too deep into this because again, that's a little personal and I wanted to kind of stay away from the personalized stuff. But what I do want to focus on is can a family member be your employer? I strongly suggest that you don't do that because again, it goes to the legitimacy of the job. Okay. Part of the reason that this program actually came under a lot of scrutiny, and was about 10 years ago when Jason Kenney was the immigration minister. He was over in Manila, and everyone's like, "Oh, my sister's hiring me, this and that," and it got tagged as a family reunification program. So again, they are looking for that, and they do ask questions around that. So I would strongly suggest that you do not work with your family members. Okay, because that could lead to them questioning the legitimacy of the job and actually a refusal. All right, how many questions we got here? Oof, we got a bunch. Let me get a few more here. Okay, can I sponsor my sister? Okay, we've already sorted that. So no, I would not suggest that you do that. So do not do that. I've been working in Hong Kong as a nanny since, oh, this is Brenda. Since 2013, I'm caring for twins. What qualifications are required? Okay, so we've already went through all that. I don't know if you were here or not, but those are the qualifications of what we know. So just go back, and if you came late, then you can certainly, I don't know if you were here late or not. But again, you can certainly check this video out because we'll put it up. All right, but yeah, all the qualifications are there. Okay, okay, I already have Canada 24 months experience, childcare provider. How next? Okay, so if you're already under the program, not something that you need to be concerned with. You should actually I don't know about your situation there, Pankaj. I would most likely, like, if you're working under the program, then you should be fine. You should just apply for PR. If you are not, then you certainly need to apply. All right. Um, all right. Shivani, relevant work experience, 3 years. What type of duration of this experience, i.e., 6 months? A good question. Generally a year. I don't know. We don't know, but generally we're looking at a year of experience is what they want to see. Okay, so a year within the last three is generally what the regulations used to say, and I assume that they're probably going to follow that. Okay, we're getting down to the end here. So, Angelita, if you're on a tourist visa, can I apply for a caregiver pathway? I have all my documents. Yes. So, being on a tourist visa and applying for a permanent residence program, they're two totally different things. Okay, so you absolutely can do that. Again, the place of application will be, you know, you can apply anywhere, right? Because again, um, yeah, like, so for instance, if you're here as a visitor, you can apply for, even when there was not the ability to apply as a work permit, because I'm old enough to remember when that wasn't there. You can actually apply from Canada, but make it an overseas application. So it doesn't matter where you are, you're most likely just going to be fine with that. Okay. Just make sure that you're not overstaying, make sure that you're in status, all of those other fun things. Um, uh, okay. Okay, there's three other questions here. I'm going to take this. So Emmanuel, how do we find an employer with a valid LMIA? Can we fact check them? Okay, so there's no LMIAs in this program. And how do you find an employer? Tricky. And please don't pay for anything because, again, that's your first indication that it's not legit. Okay, and there's no LMIA to this program. It's going to be an employer that will offer you a job and go from there. Okay. Um, I think I've answered all of the other stuff here. So I think we're going to do that. I think we'll just leave it there. All right. So I'm going to wrap it up. What I'm going to do though, guys, is I'm just going to put that up there for you. Um, I want to thank everybody who has showed up tonight. Number one. Number two, there's going to be a replay of this. I'll put it up. I will just put it up on our YouTube channel. I would strongly suggest that you connect with us because again, we have dealt with this for many, many years. We have a good depth of knowledge and we have a lot of people that will, are past clients and whatnot that we've worked with. So they keep reaching out. So we're watching this quite closely and we're going to make sure that we get you the right information in a timely manner. So we'll definitely be doing more of these webinars. And whenever we have something that comes out, we're certainly going to let you know. The other thing is that what I want to say is I want to underscore it again. I really, really want you to get prepared now if you really want to go down this pathway. And there's two things that you can do. Number one, get your English test. Number two, get your educational assessment. Okay. Those are the big things. And if you want some help with looking at these things or actually even, maybe in a little more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? If you want more of a list of documents that are personalized to you, then certainly reach out and we can book an appointment and go from there. All right. So thanks again, guys. I really appreciate everybody coming out. Stay tuned for more, and we'll see everybody soon. All right. So thanks again, guys, and really appreciate uh, really appreciate everybody. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.